Hello internet friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lindsay. If you're new here, hello, welcome to my strange little world. So today we're going to be talking about INTJ humor. This was a request from one of you asking me about INTJ humor, and it made me think about the fact that what do I find funny? What do I actually find funny? So we're gonna get right into it. All right, so there's multiple genres of humor out there, content that is developed to be specifically funny in some regard, like that's its intent is to be funny. And then there's also things that are not intended to be funny, which are hilarious. I think it's just something about the sheer reality of life and how peculiar and how interesting and how bizarre the actual real world is, that sometimes is just actually hilarious when you look at what's really happening. So, all right, so one thing that I think is hilarious that isn't necessarily hilarious by most people's standards are animals. Have you ever seen a tortoise walking around and just be like, what the heck is that guy thinking right now? Have you ever listened to a rooster or a mourning dove when it's flying away? That crazy, weird little sound it makes? It's freaking hilarious. Nature, my friends. Nature just in general is hilarious. Or another great one is just like questions that people ask on the internet. Now, it's not like I'm saying that's such a dumb question. Like, you know, okay, there's no such thing as a bad question. If you need to know something, you need to know something. But when someone's asking if an egg is a fruit or a vegetable, it's just amazing to me. The human mind is amazing because you know that the context that that person has grown up in has led them to not know if an egg is a fruit or a vegetable. But the fact that they have asked is just so amazing. And it's just, the human mind, man, it's fascinating. Another thing I think is hilarious is just like randomized vocal inflection, like the way in which people will say things and how that changes the context of what is said. And sometimes people will accidentally do this. They'll like change their vocal inflection in a way that maybe they're not expecting to or weren't thinking of. And it just makes something sound so different and so funny based on the context of how your brain relates to that inflection. And it just makes the situation very funny. But the problem is with all this humor is that it's very subjective to my own self, what I find interesting and amusing, probably a lot based on my own third slot FI. And so a lot of times when these funny things happen in real life, nobody knows why I'm laughing to myself. And then if I have to explain it, God forbid, it's a very messy explaining situation because you can't explain to someone why it's funny to think about what a tortoise was thinking at that exact moment. And something else I think is really funny is when other people get angry, because a lot of times the things that we get really angry at, if we look at it from an outside perspective, it's really not something that's maybe worth getting that angry at. I will get so pissed at something that like doesn't work right, or, you know, the cup that fell over and spilled my juice everywhere. That state of elevated anger, right, for like the single deciders, the IPs and the EJs, a lot of times they'll have this like level of like anger around like people stuff, and like people stuff is really serious, and I'm just like it's not really that serious. And that to me is funny. And then you have the IJs who get mad at the things and want to break all the things because the things don't work the way they're supposed to work. And I think that's funny. You have the EPs who think that the government is particularly trying to control them because they are very important, you know, in this world. And I mean, I think that's hilarious. You have the IPs who are getting mad at people because, you know, screw the tribe and they suck and I deserve respect. And I mean, that's kind of funny. And then you have the EJs who are just like, nobody cares about me, screw them, because, you know, no one paid attention. And I'm just like, I mean, you're responsible for that too. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I just feel as though the way in which reality plays out is just hilarious. Like, the very nature of the present world is just, it's very funny when you actually look at it. And just the craziness of how things go on and how things are, you know, it's everything has to do with your perception, right? And we'll just kind of normalize our perceptions towards a lot of things. And then when we look at them kind of through a different perspective, like for instance, like the rooster crowing in the morning, you're like, that's a freaking hilarious sound. Why isn't anyone talking about this? Because it's very funny. Every rooster who crows in the morning sounds like it's drunk. And in all these cases, it's not like I'm making fun of the person or making fun of the thing. I mean, old people are also very funny because of just like where they are in life. It's like, it's not like I'm making fun of them. It's just that the reality that is real about the fact of that is how they are and that is the things that they do, and humans and nature. And again, reality, I think, is just the funniest. It's the funniest thing. But it's when people try to be funny, they try to make situations funny. It's almost like you don't have to try that hard. Life on its own is already very amusing and very strangely hilarious. It's like when people try too hard, then to me, it's just like, well, now you've overdone it to be the opposite. That's all I have to say about that. In terms of how I personally show humor or how I display humor, I have been told that I am witty. It's a clever way of looking at a situation and saying something in which it's not meant to be literally funny. It's not like you're making a joke. It's more you're making a point, and that point happens to be funny because of the context. You're making some sort of statement, and the fact that statement is true and relevant and exists is what makes it contextually funny. Which again, I guess is kind of a play on reality, but also a play on context, which makes sense that it would be a more INTJ sort of quality in terms of humor. So humor in itself is a funny subject. I think a lot of it is very subjective to that person's, own emotional things that they find funny or things that other people find funny. But skin noodles, for instance, hair, hilarious. It's very strange and it's very funny. This video is kind of strange and also kind of funny. If you would like to talk about funny things, I have a link down for snug below. You can book a video session with me. We can talk about things. So other than that, like and subscribe if you haven't already, blah, 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 all that. Okay, so long. Farewell. And like in all these cases, it's like, I'm not making fun of the person or making fun of the thing. Or maybe I'm making fun of them, I don't know.